Miss Taylor again uses her sexuality to get on a show.
Also, quick note. So they're going to talk about, he's going to say Mr. Dixon. So Mr. Dixon's actually the executive at Fox Sports, right? So we're kind of, yeah, clip this so it wouldn't be too long. So when he says Mr. Dixon, that's who Mr. Dixon is. And then when he's talking about she or her or Miss Ferrari, then that is the hairstylist who apparently, heard everything that Joy said, and now is, has, I guess, relayed this information that made its way into this lawsuit. All right, let's proceed.
In approximately February 2020, Miss Taylor asked her to meet for lunch in Beverly Hills. When she arrived, she found Miss Taylor with a man, Emmanuel Acho. Mr. Acho. Miss Farahi did not know Mr. Acho, but could tell that the two were romantically involved. A few months after meeting him
Mm.
at lunch, she noticed him in the hallway while at work. She later asked Miss Taylor if Mr. Acho also worked at Fox. Miss Taylor confirmed and explained she wanted Mr. Acho to eventually recommend her on the show. Speak for yourself.
Mm. And so that's so interesting. Like, she sees that, oh, you're romantically involved with this person, but the first thing,
She said.
allegedly,
Mhm.
that is, from the lawsuit that she's relaying is, oh, I'm with him so that I can get on the show, so that I can get my big break, so that I can get my bag.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, at what cost are you willing to do this? It's like, is it really worth that?
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting.
She became alarmed and warned Miss Taylor that she would probably not sleep with Mr. She should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time, as Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. That's my chick.
Mm.
That's my hoe over there.
Yeah.
Miss
Yeah, and so it's like now you're playing with fire because you're already involved with Mr. Dixon, who is the executive at, Fox Sports.
Mhm.
And now you're getting involved with, somebody who's a little bit lower, who's just an analyst, but who you think you can get something from. And now you're like, oh no, I can just have them both. But it's not even have them both from oh, I kind of like them both, right? Which is still wrong, but at least it's like, oh, you're, feeling out your emotions. This is just straight manipulation, maniacal, absolute just evil.
Yeah, and you can just see like that's human nature, like
Mm.
of just wanting more and more and more and never being satisfied
Mm.
as well.
Yeah, because you never take the time to understand, like, what does this even mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does a peaceful life look to me? It's like, oh no, I just got to keep ascending higher and higher and keep attaining. It's just empty calories, essentially, just empty experience points,
Yeah.
right? It's like, what are you really doing? And so that's the interesting part of it all.
Taylor told her not to work. Don't worry about it, girl. I can let them both bust me down at the same time. She explained that she was also now
Shout
powerful,
out to Alan.
and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would now not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. Oh my God. And approximately
So she basically was like, hey, once I get this new deal, right, and I'm done with Mr. Dixon, then I'm just gonna toss him to the side
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna play the victim, right?
That's so crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And that's why that's very harmful because, other women who actually go through, situations when they, really are in very compromised situations, then it looks bad when they look like they're just playing the victim when they're actually victims.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, all of this is alleged, and I, from everything that's come out so far, it doesn't look like she really was a victim. I pray that she wasn't a victim, but also at the same time, if she wasn't, then she's very manipulative and a maniacal liar, and that should just be a lesson to everybody. Like, this is not the way to go about advancing your career.
Yeah.
So,
September 2022, Miss Taylor started to work on Speak. Miss Taylor requested her to do her hair.
Okay, but there's like a little bit more in there as I was doing my research on this whole situation. And the hairstylist was going to Joy about actual sexual harassment. And Joy was like, get over it. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't see that part.
I was like,
Man. Yeah, because I was wondering why was the hairstylist like outing her girl? But if she was actually going through something and then Joy is over here, basically playing, she's like, oh no, like that's one, that's triggering, but then two, that's just objectively wrong.
Yeah.
Like you're playing the victim when
When
you
there's an
know
actual-
somebody, there's an actual victim that you told
to get
your
over it.
whole, plot. That is
Yeah.
unbelievable. And for what? So that you can get some more money, so that you can be more visible on TV,
Fame.
so that you can have fame. Like, but what does that even amount to?
Yeah.
For some people, they get famous and they do good. And yes, they do have a little bit of an ego because they like being out, but they don't let it get to their head to the point where, they are just doing things that are absurd. But then some people only want fame just to have fame. And that's just a recipe that's going to cost you your soul at the end of the day.
Yeah. We
As
saw
you-
it with her. We
Yeah.
see it with the girl that slept with 100 guys.
Yeah, the girl that slept with 100 guys is absolutely right. Yes, Miracle says, it's an odd paradox. You want to be independent woman, but you also want a man for the purposes of spending money on you. Yeah.
Selfish.
Yeah, it's like, I want to be an independent woman and say I got this money, but I don't want to spend my money. I want to spend their money. And so I just use them to spend their money while I just keep my money. But it's like, what, you're keeping money for what? Again, like you have no real purpose, nothing that's actually driving you forward in life. You are just propelled forward by your, lustful desire that's, not attached to anything truly meaningful. And that's a recipe for disaster. And that's also just a learning lesson for, men and women out there. Like you have to have purpose in the right things. If you don't have purpose in the right things, then you're going to do compromising things and things that maybe you aren't proud of or that you shouldn't be proud of. But what's done in the dark, what?
What's done in the dark comes to light.
It always comes to light.
And I was going to say, if you don't pursue light, you pursue darkness, just as we were talking about in the first segment.
Yeah, it's a theme that comes all the way back around full circle. It's like if you are walking away from that light, then there's just going to be certain things. Like she probably was like, oh no, this is just part of the game. Playing the victim, that's just part of the game. She probably didn't even see anything wrong with it. It's like, oh no, I'm just, again, back to Alan. He had a beautiful comment right here that I put up on the screen earlier. And he says, pawns in a chess game, she just pulled off a queen's gambit. Yeah, that's just basically what she was doing. She was just manipulating the board.
Yeah.
Right? But again, it's inherently wrong. It wasn't attached to any purpose. It was a zero-sum game. And ultimately, she thought she won by pulling off the queen's gambit. But now it's coming back to bite her. Because what good is to gain the whole world